and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Collectors, listen up. My friends at Global Coin present the 2024 $50 Golden Eagle, a rich symbol of prestige and integrity, minted at the renowned West Point Mint and graded a perfect mint state 70 by NGC. This coin is comprised of 1 ounce of 22 karat gold, and it features the classic 1907 Augustus St. Gaudens design on the obverse and the family of eagles on the reverse. This is heritage in your hands. So act now and elevate your collection with this iconic piece that is all yours at the current spot price of gold, with a free shipping and 30-day money-back guarantee. Don't miss this chance to add the 2024 $50 Gold Eagle to your collection and your legacy while supplies last. Call Global Coin now at 888-385-0066. That's 888-385-0066. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. This is our first episode post-election. There is so much to discuss, and we are excited because tonight we're joined by Editor-in-Chief of Breitbart and the host of the Alex Marlow Show, Alex Marlow, as well as Editor-in-Chief to the Post Millennial, Libby Emmons. Both of you, welcome. You guys have sort of been around several times with us. This is nothing new, except there is something new, Libby. Donald J. Trump is officially going to be our 47th president of the United States. Let me get your reaction to election night. I mean, we always talk about The Art of the Comeback with Donald Trump. That was a great book written once upon a time by the very man himself. And now we've seen, I think, the most incredible political comeback in the history of politics. What did you think of the 312 electoral votes?
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely astounding, I must say. And it wasn't just the White House, but it's all of Congress. It's the Senate, it's the House, and there is a 6-3 conservative majority in the Supreme Court. I don't think we've seen this kind of thing since Reagan. I mean, I think that's the most recent thing I can come up with. So it is sort of it's a shocking mandate from the American people. I think the left is absolutely gobsmacked. The Democrats are in complete disarray. They have no idea even who their leader should be. The best they've got is Hakeem Jeffries at this point, and he's minority in the House. Like, come on, what are you even going to do? So yeah, I think it's really quite the dawn of a new day, and I'm excited to see what can be accomplished, especially when we start with reversing all of the horrifying things that Joe Biden enacted on his very first day in office.
That's true. He did a lot of really bad stuff, Alex. A lot of things that led us to things like sky-high inflation. I would argue even led to the wars around the world that we've had at this point. I think the thing that I found most incredible on Tuesday night, and look, no one worked harder than those of us in our family. No one worked harder than our team at the RNC. We were hell-bent on making sure that there was no cheating in this election. Man, did we work hard on that. We had an incredible election integrity push and a great team all across the country. But then for Donald Trump, a Republican, to win the popular vote as well. I mean, the history was made in so many different ways on Tuesday night of last week. And to witness it, to be alive right now, I just said to you guys right before we started this show, it's quite a time to be alive. And it really, truly is.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting to think about some of the ways Trump won and the things that worked for him. You always start, for me, at least with the issues. His slate of issues was unbelievable. We're going to secure the border. We're going to get the price of groceries down. We are going to not be in as many foreign wars. We're going to feel more secure about not getting a nuclear bomb dropped on us. All that stuff was basic, standard Trump stuff, and stuff where a Biden and Harris cannot compete. Her slate of issues, abortion, January the 6th, stuff that were so played out, and we're just not going to motivate enough people. That was obviously a positive. But one of the things that I think really solidified to me after, or really towards the end, was how much of a harder worker he is than anyone in politics, but really her in particular. She ran an incredibly lazy campaign. And for someone who got installed by 3 people, Laurene Powell Jobs, Nancy Pelosi, and Barack Obama, 90 days, whatever it was, before the election, for her to not be out there hitting the pavement every second is unworthy of the office of the presidency. And I just love that we get to talk about that now.
Yeah, we do. And by the way, you're right. I'll tell you, we were all so the day before election day, Monday the 4th. Donald Trump did 4 rallies. He started in Raleigh, North
Yeah.
Carolina, then he went to Reading, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and then of course, and as tradition dictated, he had to end in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is where he ended his campaign and had his last rally in 2016. He did the same thing in 2020, but we were all there as a family with him. And I got to tell you guys, we were all backstage, like our whole family. I'm talking me, Eric, Don, we had just the whole group of us by there. Tiffany, her husband,
Hmm.
Kimberly. We're all backstage, literally like trying to get comfortable on those kind of like folding chairs, exhausted,
Right.
exhausted. We're not the ones that have been out on stage for, an hour plus at all these different rallies. That was Donald Trump. And we were like, oh, he's probably going to call us out there. And we were just at that point, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning in Grand Rapids, Michigan, beyond exhausted. And this guy is still going. We were all like, oh, is it really going to happen? Do we think he's going to call us out there? And then he called us out on stage. And then he kept going after we got out on stage and said a few words. Incredible. But I appreciate that you said that, Alex, because I think it's one of the reasons people voted for Donald Trump. We need
Yep.
a hustler in the White House. We need somebody who's going to get in there and really go to work. And Libby, I don't think there's any question based on what we've seen thus far with Donald Trump and who he wants in his cabinet, who he's chosen to work alongside of him in his second administration. Man, we're going to have they got their work cut out for them, but we are going to have some workers back in charge. And that's a great thing for this country.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, what Trump is doing is solidifying some of his campaign promises, and he's going to go out there and he's going to fulfill the mandate, right? You have Lee Zeldin in there. He's already spoken about the need for energy independence. I'm a huge proponent of energy independence. I cannot, overstate how important that is. You have Tom Homan out there who is going to take not only decisive action, but all the slings and arrows that are going to come with that decisive action. I was watching him on Charlie Kirk as he laid out just his plan, which, he keeps getting all of these questions about what he's said in the past or whatever. And Charlie just let him lay out his whole plan. And it was fascinating to get a chance to really hear that. So, yeah, they're going to hit the ground running and they're really just going to go for it. And I'm so confident about Trump and the administration's ability to nail all of these promises that were made. Getting
Yeah.
men out of women's sports, not allowing trans surgeries for minors, the energy independence, as I said, border control, security, revitalizing American manufacturing. I think that the United States is really on track for some boom times ahead, not just economically, but with a sense of morale that we haven't seen in a long time. We've been hearing for so long about how America is just absolutely the worst, how we have to look at our history from the viewpoint of oppression. And one thing that I thought was spectacular was you saw across the board, across ethnic and religious groups, people came out for Trump. Arabs came out for Trump. You had more white people coming out for Trump than was anticipated. Native Americans, Catholics, Black people, Hispanics, everyone came out for Trump. And what that tells us about the left's, disastrous foray into identity politics is not only that it's not working, but for all of these groups, being an American is the most important identity and everything else comes second.
And that's what it should be, right, Alex? That I love that. That's what Donald Trump has been about from the beginning. And they tried to distort it. Look, don't kid yourself. We've been doing this for 9 years. It was 9 years plus 9 years and like 5 months ago that Donald Trump came down the golden escalator and decided to announce he was running for president as a Republican. And he immediately got attacked. And he consistently talked about how we really are one American people and that's who we should be. And the identity politics, Libby, I love that you brought that up. You saw Donald Trump make huge gains with almost every voting blocks that the Democrats have thought they didn't even have to work for anymore. Donald Trump won big league, as he says, with all of them. And I really first of all, I feel like the American people are kind of like, oh, like everyone just exhaled on Wednesday morning in the early hours last week because it was like a weight that maybe we didn't even know was on us had been lifted off of us. There was hope. Donald Trump in his speech on election night talked about a golden age of America ahead of us. And that's why it didn't matter, what your religion, what you look like, any of these things, none of the ways that the Democrats like to categorize people, it didn't matter. People were like, you know what? I'm an American at the end of the day. And I want somebody in there who I know is fighting for me. And I think for all of us in the family, it was a moment where I felt personally like all of the
Yeah.
attacks against this man haven't worked. People get it now. The American people have seen through it and they know how lied to they were about this particular man. I got to tell you, from my perspective, that was a huge, huge thing for all of us because I've hated to see it. I think it's been very divisive and bad for our country. But I kind of get the sense people aren't buying it anymore, and Donald Trump is going to go down in history, I believe, as one of America's greatest presidents and probably one of the best leaders the world has ever seen.
He's got that opportunity now, which is pretty remarkable. And it's funny because I think about how personally appealing he is, which is a warning also to Republicans, is that we benefited from his personal appeal.
Yeah.
I've gotten to know him quite a bit over the years. I wouldn't say we're close, Lara, but I probably interviewed him, I'd say about 9 times or maybe 10. And, Breitbart, of course, was the first major political outlet or a major news outlet that was wised up to the power of Trump's candidacy way back in 2015. So I'm very proud of that. I'll dine out on that for the rest of my life for sure. But it's very noteworthy, his personal appeal. And even when sometimes I disagree with some of his choices during his first administration, my wife, who's an apolitical person, but leans the way we do, would always say to me, I don't care, I love him. And that's very powerful. And she's a very bright woman. She's a oncologist. She's a super academic, intellectual person. And she said, I don't care. I love him. There's something about him which is just so, it brings you joy. And if anyone sees your family, Lara, on that stage, the 30 of you, whatever it is, and you don't feel proud and confident in this country, compared to whatever Kamala is doing with her chubby husband who allegedly beats women and knocks up nannies. It's like, you got to be kidding me. There is no comparison. We're allowed to feel good about that stuff. We're allowed to feel confident that this guy's been a winner at everything he's done. He's been a winner on TV. He's been a winner in business. He's already been the president before. He took a bullet in the head and got up and yelled, fight, fight, fight. If you don't want that guy leading you into battle, then I don't know who you waiting for?
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I hope people are taking in terms of a lesson from Donald Trump, like even if you're not in politics, Libby, look, I think the fact that this is a guy, and there's a very famous, it's like a speech at a college graduation or something that he gave where he talks about never quitting and never giving up and really continuing to fight for whatever it is that you believe in and you're working towards. Because he said, look, I have seen so many successful people who were right on the verge of whatever it was they wanted to achieve, almost achieving it, but giving up. You can never give up. You can never stop fighting for what matters to you. And he's proof of that. Look at this man. Think back to his announcement that he was running for president a second time. And I'll be honest, the response from people was not overwhelmingly supportive. A lot of people gave him a really hard time for it and said, you know what, it's time for somebody else to come in there. He never gave up. He never stopped moving forward. Even if you're just inching along, you're moving forward. There will never be another one like Donald Trump. There will never be, and I've said this before, there'll never be a guy who can go work at McDonald's and then get in a garbage truck and drive it to a rally in Wisconsin. There will never be a guy who has a dance that you're now seeing happen on football fields in a place near you. I think it's amazing, but he never gave up on what he wanted and what he was striving for. And what a great lesson. He is a worker. He is a doer, but I feel like that's a great lesson for my kids and the kids of America to see Donald Trump continue to fight for what he wanted and continue to work for what he knew he could achieve ultimately.
Yeah, I think so too. And you mentioned your kids. My son is 14, and he said that when he heard that Donald Trump won, he felt safer in America.
Wow.
He follows politics. I do too much political reporting. His dad is in politics, does political reporting as well. So he sees that all the time. And he said, I don't think we're going to have a lot of new wars. He's been thinking about selective service. And he's like, I don't think I'm going to get sent to some crazy war now. This is great.
Big.
So I think that's a really big deal to see somebody who pals around with garbage men and McDonald's workers instead of someone who pals around with pop stars and entertainers. That was something that I found particularly alienating as someone who's had basically a full-time job since I was 19 years old. And then suddenly, you have 100 days to campaign. And who are you hanging out with? You're hanging out with Hollywood celebrities and these elite people who know nothing about the rest of us, who can afford to have these luxury beliefs, who can afford to stake it all on abortion and transgendering
But
minors.
Libby, did they even believe it? Did they even believe it? They got paid exorbitant amounts of money.
Yeah.
They spent I guess they raised a little over $1 billion for Kamala Harris, and they're $20 million in debt. I don't know. Is that because you guys are paying off all the celebrities? Probably. They got really high sums of money. So you really have to ask yourself, if you're paying people for their, I'll put it in air quotes, endorsement, are they really endorsing you, or are they just looking for a payday? Or I mean,
yeah, what's the situation
gross.
there? And I think that it's a really good thing that someone who manages to overspend $1 billion in 100 days isn't going to be in charge of the national debt.
Thank God. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Such a good point.
Alex, I think that if the Democrats do not reflect on what lost them this election, I don't think they're ever going to win another election. That's okay with us over at the RNC. I'll be really honest with everybody. But truly, they seem so out of touch. And it really is. I feel like it's insulting whenever they bring around these celebrities and they throw them around like they did. I think it's insulting to the intelligence of the American people. Like, we're smart enough to be able to look at policies that impacted our lives. We're smart enough to be able to look at the kitchen table issues and say, you know what? That's great for Beyonce. That's great for whoever it was, Cardi B or whatever. I'm still voting for the guy who I know put more money in my pocket, who I know gave us our energy independence, who I know didn't start a new war. I hope that somebody over there at the DNC realizes how poorly they ran this campaign and how insulting a lot of it, I think, was to the American people, not the least of which, by the way, was Barack Obama. We've all seen how quickly life can change. The outcome of a single event can impact our entire nation. Now more than ever, it's crucial to be prepared. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your family with ReadyWise emergency food. With ReadyWise emergency food, you're covered not just for the worst, but for anything life throws your way. Enjoy peace of mind knowing you have delicious, nutritious meals ready when your family needs them. ReadyWise has a huge selection of freeze-dried meals from breakfast to pasta dishes. You can be assured your food will be good to eat when you need it with their 25-year shelf life. ReadyWise is an American company that cares about its fellow citizens, you, and is committed to your safety. Visit ReadyWise.com and use promo code TRUMP20 at checkout for 20% off any regular priced items. That's ReadyWise.com, promo code TRUMP20. The story of MyPillow is a testament to faith and transformation. Mike Lindell, once battling addiction, found a new path when he embraced faith and began following Jesus. In gratitude, Mike is excited to share an exclusive offer with our listeners. Right now, the standard MyPillow is available for less than $15, a savings that's too good to pass up. There's a limit of 10 per customer, so don't wait to take advantage of this amazing deal now with promo code TRUMP. Mike believes God gave him the idea for MyPillow in a dream, and it's designed with your comfort in mind. The pillow holds its shape and adapts perfectly to your unique sleep position, helping keep your neck aligned for the best night's sleep. And there's more. Take home a 4-piece kitchen set for only $25. Enjoy their new mattress topper starting at just $99.99, or pick up the luxurious MyPillow bed sheets starting at $49.98. Visit MyPillow.com and use promo code TRUMP to unlock huge discounts. Don't miss out. Order today.
Yeah, he's deserves a lot of blame, and all Democrats should be pointing their finger at him. Lara, there's one thing we haven't mentioned that's a positive that I want to mention before I say something somewhat negative. But the positive stuff is this new renewed energy that the right has for the pick and shovel work that it takes to win elections. This is something that I've been beating a drum about for years, but I admit I've done nothing physical to do that other than complain about it on air and in articles and stuff like that. Lara, you got out there and you did the work at the RNC RNC. Scott Presler, of course, gets a shout out. The great Charlie Kirk gets a shout out. But people started to take it very seriously, actually, the ability to, can we get ballots into ballot boxes that are legit? And that was something Democrats have always kicked our butts on. And we made up a lot of ground this time. Not enough ground for me to feel too secure, but enough to at least make it so that Trump won. And massive hats off to you, Lara. Amazing job. But I only caveat it with the sense that this is our chance to run up the score. They're rudderless right now. You can just see it in the media. Their power centers do not understand that the playbook of calling all of us fascists and Nazis, transing the kids, having infinite amounts of debt, leaving the border open, more crime in our streets is not a winning formula. No one in their leadership understands that they have to get away from those issues. So until they figure it out, we have got to hammer. We've got to make it as cool and as powerful and as successful to be conservatives. Right now, we get a big 2 years ahead.
We do. But I think Libby, I feel that shift. I think I've been feeling it, but I think it solidified. I think Donald Trump was up 10 points with 18 to 29-year-olds in this election, up 5 points with 30 to 44-year-olds. So, it's kind of like we're the counterculture party now, whereas the Democrats were that in the 60s. That's sort of who we are now as I feel like a party in many cases. And look, as long as I've been at the RNC and as long as I will be at the RNC, it is my hope that we expand the footprint and the tent of this party. This is a party for everyone out there. You should feel like no matter where you live, no matter what you look like, any of it, you can come over and safely feel like your vote matters the most to be cast for Republicans, because I think a lot of people are realizing they were truly lied to by the Democrats. I think obviously people started looking at some of the policies like Alex just laid out, which were crazy. But I really do think there is a huge opportunity right now. And I feel like you kind of get the momentum. Who was the football player who just got fined for wearing the MAGA hat?
Bosa. One of the Bosas. There's two Bosas.
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah. But he's got, you're seeing more and more that people are feeling more comfortable right now coming out and saying, yeah, I voted for Donald Trump. And yeah, I'm wearing my Trump gear. And yeah, we're going to make this cool. I think that we're poised for this. Donald Trump started it, and I'm going to give him full credit. And obviously we saw how massive this election was. But we really have, to Alex's point, we have a huge opportunity on our hands right now. And I'm hopeful, and I wonder if you think this is going to happen, that we see some of these celebrities who have been very behind the scenes, not sure if they're comfortable coming out and saying they're for Donald Trump and, that they voted for him. Do you think that they may feel better now coming out and we might see that happen? I would love it.
I would love that too. And I think that speaks to what else really needs to happen in this moment, which is that conservatives and the MAGA, movement need to start embracing culture and furthering some of the cultural offerings in the United States. It's not enough to just bring your kids to movies that have, a whole bunch of trans characters and are telling everyone to get abortions and are behaving, people behaving in these terrible ways. That's not what we need to do anymore. We need to embrace cultural offerings, and where they don't exist, create them, and to lean into some of the creators that are out there doing this kind of stuff. Comedians are out there doing this kind of work. Tony Hinchcliffe refused to apologize after his, goofball Puerto Rican joke. And I think that we need more of that. No more apologies. Go out there, do the cultural work, fund the cultural work. The left still has these institutions and they have all of this money behind it. And I think that we can give the kids new things and support these kids in their cultural offerings, the things that they're creating and coming up with. And I think that that is really what enabled the left to be dominant for such a long time, is they had academia and Hollywood and the music industry. And it's time to make serious inroads in all of those areas, so that kids who want to be artists, they know that they don't have to, bow their heads and hate America just to put some paint on a canvas.
Amen. Let's get back to loving America. I think that's going to happen. I think it's already happening. I've seen a lot of people out there with a lot of American flag regalia on in the past week, and I love to see it. Yeah, it's so good. Let me ask you this, Alex. There was floated the idea from a Kamala Harris advisor on CNN that perhaps in order to break the glass ceiling here for the presidency, Joe Biden ought to just go ahead and resign if he wanted to do the right thing. It's like ridiculous to say. and let Kamala Harris for like 30 days be the first female president of the United States. Are you kidding?
Lara, I'm so glad you're asking me this because I brought this up on my show and I thought about it and I don't think I had the right take. I think the right take is this is impossible because Joe Biden doesn't like Kamala Harris.
It's true.
That's the major thing. That is, he doesn't like her. He picked her because she's dumb. It's true. And I don't say that to be mean. I studied them both. I wrote a whole book about Joe Biden. She was chosen specifically because of it's really three things. She's a multi-ethnic woman, which is appealing. I'm not denying that appeal. And the donors love her, which means he was going to get more money in his campaign. And he did. If you look back in 2020, he got a huge fundraising boom when she was picked. But she was also so unimpressive. She was never going to exceed him because she actually can't build coalitions the way Joe Biden can. She can't run anything. Look at her whole portfolio. All of it was terrible. And then she was a part of it, even if a relatively passive part compared to Pelosi and Obama. She was part of the group that shivved him in the back on the very end of his 50-year career. He's not going to give her that. That's absurd. And by the way, he still got to pardon Hunter anyway, so he's got to get that done first before he lets anyone else be president.
Well, Libby, there was the photo of Jill Biden leaving her voting location in a bright MAGA red pantsuit. I don't know. I mean, I've said it before and I keep joking about it, but in some ways I could see how maybe Joe Biden wasn't so upset on Tuesday night. Like, I told you so.
No way he was upset. He loved it. Take it to the bank.
Too.
Was that a dig, the Jill Biden pantsuit at Democrats, do you think, or was that just an accident?
Oh, for sure. For sure, that was a dig. They took her man and they threw him out on his butt. Yeah. Of course. I would take issue with them too. I wouldn't have any room for these people after something like that. And I don't even agree with these people and I wouldn't do that.
That's right.
Yeah, I think they treated Biden absolutely abysmally. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and now they all just have this smashed right back into their faces. It was so stupid of them to pull their top guy. Even with all of Joe Biden's problems, I think he would have been a better contender because he actually has a record to run on that's not complete trash. He can stand on that record, whether you agree with it or not. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I liked to see Jill out there in her red suit. I liked to see Biden and Jill having sort of like a little bit of fun about this at Kamala's expense. You know that they were scolded behind the scenes. Joe, you got to drop out. Even George Clooney says you got to drop out of the race, and we all know how important that is. So, yeah. I kind of loved that. These old two, they've been in politics for a really long time. They weren't given any credence to their viewer perspective. They were treated very badly. And I liked to see them. I liked to see them have a little win in Kamala's loss. Well, I'm sure they had fun with it. They didn't even go to her stupid party. I mean, neither did she.
They didn't. Yeah.
But, like they didn't go. They were like, we're gonna watch it at home with a dish of ice cream, just like the rest of America. I loved that.
And if it's Donald Trump, we know it's 2 scoops of ice cream that he always has. I don't know who let Joe Biden out on the beach, but that video makes me very sad to watch. All I know, oh God, we really don't have that long until January 20th. I just want to make it there. I don't know who's watching. Our adversaries are watching that. Our allies are watching that. And they're like, oh, and I don't know. Listen, who's to say how it would have turned out if Joe Biden stayed in the race? I still think Donald Trump would have handily won this election because I just think America is ready for a change. I think it's
me too. But at least Biden's a contender. Kamala's a bag of air.
Yeah, no, it's
as
true.
Alex
She had
pointed
nothing
out,
to say.
she's not smart.
Nothing to say about anything.
You can't do this exercise, but if you did somehow do the matrix zappy thing on people's brain from the debate, then Biden would have had a chance. He would have been a much better challenge to Trump than Harris. I still think Trump would have won too. I think just the slate of issues and his personality, I think he was going to win it. But a pre-debate Biden was clearly a stronger candidate than a post-debate Kamala.
Amen. It's the truth. But you know what? It's hindsight's 2020 for him. So I don't know. Next time, maybe don't throw your people out like that in the least democratic way possible, I might add. Before we go, we got this information. There was a lot of talk during the hurricane that blew through Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and there was a lot of talk about what was happening with FEMA on the other side of that. Turns out, actually, FEMA was directing people, or some person at FEMA was directing people not to go, Libby, to houses of people who had some sort of a Trump sign. The Biden-Harris Federal Emergency Management Agency Administrator Deanne Criswell announced Saturday a federal disaster relief official who advised her survivor assistance team to ignore homes displaying Trump signs in Lake Placid, Florida, following Hurricane Milton, has been fired. It's the second hurricane. I get it. The first one, Helene, that went through North Carolina, there was question about what they did there. Milton came through, and I guess FEMA went, and they just said, somebody said, do not go to the places, to the homes that have Trump signs or a Trump flag, etc. I'm glad they fired this person, but it's interesting because it's always like they say 6 months between a conspiracy theory and reality. A lot of people speculated about this prior to us learning this information, and we were all told that that was crazy. I honestly and sadly am not surprised to hear that that happened, but it's absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, it is absolutely disgraceful. And she was fired, this woman, Marnie Washington, who was apparently a supervisor, telling relief workers not to go to homes with Trump signs. And there's a couple of things about this. One, the New York Times fact-checked Trump and said that he was wrong and made false claims when he said that FEMA was not going to conservative homes. And it turns out the Daily Wire broke this story, and they proved Trump right. The New York Times has not retracted their fact check. However, so, I'm sure we're all going to hold our breath for that.
Yeah.
But also, Miss Washington spoke out on a podcast, and she did an interview, and she said directly that she's being scapegoated and that this is not an isolated incident. She said that this is routine within the agency, that this was happening in North Carolina as well. And she went so far as to say that this was coming from other people. This wasn't her just making up her mind to do this thing. She said she didn't even vote because she was too busy on the ground helping people, and she didn't want to take time away from that. The argument that she made, however, was that people with Trump signs were resistant to FEMA help, and that's a big part of the reason why they didn't go to those homes. But that all rings a little false now that she's fired, and the agency, I think, is going to have to continue to answer for this once she said that it's not just her, but this is agency-wide, and that it was happening, in the Carolinas too.
The idea, Alex, that she's a scapegoat makes me think of a lot of other things that probably going to have a lot of light shed on them coming up when Donald Trump is back in the White House. A lot of the lawfare waged against Donald Trump, I could imagine if somebody dug at all, I don't even think you have to dig deep. There's probably a direct connection between the top of the federal government and all of these AGs, DAs, and their indictments of Donald Trump, and the timing of it all too. I'm just going to leave that there and let's see what happens. But I don't think this woman is far off if she says that this is not an isolated incident, that this is not the first time it's happened, and that maybe there was somebody up top who was directing this for whatever reason you might direct something like this. It's very upsetting, obviously.
Yes.
But I think we've seen enough in this country that none of that's far-fetched. I'm just ready for the light to be shown in the dark places.
Yeah, I got 3 quick points on this, and the first 2 are obvious ones. First of all, the firing is an admission of guilt. It means this really did happen, and that our government discriminated based off of viewpoint and political viewpoints in the run-up to an election. Totally disgusting. If this was happening in the third world, it'd be disgusting. Second of all, it just renews the importance of Donald Trump needing to drain the swamp, and every person who's put in charge of any of these organizations, and that needs to be their number one goal, is to fire the bad guys, figure out who they are and fire them. That's number one. And rebuilding is so secondary to just the firings and the cleaning up house. But I want to point the finger at the establishment media, and I want to point the finger at the Democrat Party on this, because I believe this was born of a culture. When you call people fascists and you call them Nazis and you call them garbage, and then you're supposed to help them and you have finite resources and everyone's moving quickly, it's a natural disaster, who are you going to save? Are you going to save the garbage, or are you going to save the people who are the innocent, lovely people who only want the best for all of our, trans people? What is it that we're doing, and what are our priorities in this life? Is it treating people who disagree with us as our neighbor, or is it targeting people for political violence, which is essentially what this is?
Yeah. It's really, really, the word I keep coming back to is gross. It's gross. They paid the price for it in this election, though. I hope they learned some lessons. But both of you, Libby and Alex, thank you. What an epic time to again, to be alive, but to be able to talk about this incredible stuff. And on the other side of this election, I'm just feeling very hopeful for this country. I feel, again, like a weight has been lifted. I think for those of us in our family, we certainly feel like we can breathe like a little more deeply again, but I think a lot of America feels that way. So I want to say thanks to both of you for all you always do. You're out there fighting the good fight right alongside of us. So thank you to both of you, and to everybody at home. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View.
And I won't back down. Hey, baby.
Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it.